Hey guys, welcome back to another The SMA Victor Podcast. I am your host, Victor, aka Victor the Inspiration, and I personally have SMA type 2. Let's begin today's episode talking about understanding spinal muscular atrophy. Let's get right into it. Hi, ChatGPT. I want you to be my co host within today's episode. And within today's episode, we are going to be talking about the fascinating topic understanding spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. It's a spinal muscular atrophy, SMA, is a genetic disorder that causes progressive muscle weakness and wasting due to the loss of motor neurons in the spinal cord. It is caused by a mutation in the SMN1 gene, which results in a lack of the essential SMN protein, leading to a failure of motor neurons to receive signals from the brain. Symptoms vary widely depending on the type of SMA, but commonly include muscle weakness, limited mobility, and delayed gross motor skills, and potential breathing and swallowing difficulties, especially in more severe forms. So, ChatGPT, can you explain what this means?
Absolutely. So, in simpler terms, spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA, is a genetic condition that affects the muscles. It happens because there's a problem with a gene called SMN1, and that gene is responsible for making a protein that helps motor neurons work properly. When this protein is missing or deficient, the motor neurons can't send signals from the brain to the muscles effectively. This leads to muscle weakness and wasting, and the severity of the symptoms can vary. It can affect movement, and in some cases, even breathing and swallowing.
Can you give an analogy on what SMA means?
Sure. Think of your body like a big communication network. The brain is the main control center, and the motor neurons are like the cables that send signals to the muscles, telling them what to do. Now, in SMA, it's as if there's a faulty connection in those cables because the protein that keeps them running smoothly is missing. So the signals can't get through properly, and the muscles don't get the instructions they need to function well.
I always say that was a good analogy. The way I always perceive SMA and the way I explain what SMA is picture SMA like a Wi-Fi signal. The closer you are to your Wi-Fi signal, what happens? You have that connection where everything is responding quicker and faster, right? But the more you pull away from your Wi-Fi signal, what happens? Things tend to run slower and it's harder for your device to communicate with whatever it is you were trying to do, which ultimately slows down the device. So SMA is as SMA because SMA is progressive, is the more time goes on over time, we as we who are SMA patients, SMA individuals, we are slowly pulling away from that Wi-Fi router. So as time progresses and over time, our signal that communicates from, because like our SMN1 gene, which communicates with the brain to say, hey, this exists, the more time goes on, we are slowly pulling away from that signal, which weakens that type of connection. So, ChatGPT, can you help clarify about what it is I am trying to give an analogy on?
Absolutely. I love that analogy. So, what you're saying is that the SMN1 gene is like the Wi Fi signal that keeps everything connected and functioning smoothly between the brain and the muscles. And as the SMA progresses, it's like that signal gradually getting weaker or more distant. So the communication between the brain and the muscles becomes slower and less effective. It's a really neat way of illustrating how the condition affects the body over time.
But fortunately, is there is hope and something to be grateful for and appreciative for is that although SMA is progressive and although as time progresses and goes on over time, although yes, we are somewhat losing that sense of connection because we're pulling away from it, there are treatments available that help sustain that signal to be strong and functional as much as possible. So let's move on to the next topic. It says causes and mechanism. Genetic mutation. SMA is caused by a mutation in the SMN1 gene, which is necessary for the production of the survival motor neuron, SMN protein. And the second one says lack of protein. The mutated gene leads to a decrease in SMN protein, which is crucial for the health and function of motor neurons in the spinal cord. And thirdly, we have motor neuron loss. Without sufficient SMN protein, Motor neurons in the spinal cord are lost, and muscles are unable to receive proper signals from the brain. So, ChatGPT, can you help clarify and explain talking about genetic mutation, lack of protein, and motor neuron loss?
Of course, let's break it down step by step. First, the genetic mutation. SMA is caused by a change or mutation in the SMN1 gene. This gene is crucial because it makes a protein called the SMN protein, which is essential for motor neuron health. Next, the lack of protein. Because the SMN1 gene is mutated, the body can't produce enough of the SMN protein. Without this protein, the motor neurons, which are the nerve cells that control muscle movement, can't stay healthy. Finally, the motor neuron loss. Over time, without enough SMN protein, these motor neurons begin to die off or become damaged. And when that happens, the muscles can no longer get the signals they need from the brain, leading to the muscle weakness and other symptoms we see with SMA.
So, what I'm picking up on this is if we help strengthen the connection, we can make SMA more sustainable.
Exactly. That's a great way to look at it. By improving or sustaining the amount of that crucial protein and keeping those motor neurons healthy, we can definitely slow the progression of SMA and improve quality of life. And that's where the new treatments come into play, helping to strengthen that connection and keep things running more smoothly for longer.
It says the next one is symptoms and progression, muscle weakness and atrophy. The most prominent symptom is a loss of muscle strength and muscle wasting, atrophy. And the second one is limited mobility. This leads to limited movement and can include difficulty with taste, like rolling over, with task, excuse me. Limited mobility. This leads to limited movement and can include difficulty with task, like rolling over, sitting, standing, and walking, with the weakness often starting in the shoulder, hip, and thigh muscles. And thirdly, it says delayed gross motor skills. Children with SMA often experience delays in reaching developmental milestones for motor skills. Fourthly, we have respiratory and swallowing issues. As the disease progresses, muscles needed for breathing and swallowing can be affected, leading to difficulty breathing and eating. Fifthly, we have scoliosis. Weakness in the back muscles can lead to the development of a curved spine, scoliosis. And sixth, we have varying severity. The age of onset and severity of symptoms can vary significantly based on how much functional SMN protein is present in the motor neurons. ChatGPT, can you please break down all of these things, beginning with muscle weakness and atrophy?
Absolutely. Let's go through each symptom step by step. First, muscle weakness and atrophy. This is the hallmark symptom of SMA. The muscles gradually lose their strength and begin to waste away because they aren't getting the signals they need. Second, limited mobility. Because the muscles are weaker, it becomes harder to perform everyday tasks like rolling over, sitting, standing, or walking. The weakness often starts in the shoulder, hip, and thigh muscles. Third, delayed gross motor skills. Children with SMA might reach milestones like crawling, standing, or walking later than other children because their muscle strength develops more slowly. Fourth, respiratory and swallowing issues. As the disease progresses, the muscles that help with breathing and swallowing can weaken, making it harder to breathe deeply or swallow safely. Fifth, scoliosis. The weakness in the back muscles can lead to a curved spine over time, which is known as scoliosis. Finally, varying severity. The severity and the age at which symptoms appear can differ from person to person, depending on how much of that SMN protein is still functioning in their body. So all of these symptoms come together to show how SMA affects movement, strength, and overall health.
Yeah, definitely. It's SMA is it's progressive. So, put it simply, like a personal life story of mine is I have a twin sister. So fortunately for my mother, she was able to see and somewhat, I'm gonna use the word compare the milestones my twin was able to do that I wasn't. So for example, I was during infancy, I was still crawling around, and my sister went from crawling to standing and I was still crawling. Then while my sister went from crawling to standing to now walking, I was still crawling. And then as my twin began to develop more milestones and reach more milestones, my twin was able to go from crawling to standing to walking to then running. And I was still crawling. So my mother was like, something's going on here. So my mother took me to the pediatrician. Long story short is the pediatrician was like, he's fine. He's just going through a phase, and sent my mom on her way. Then my mom, more time went on. Then my mom had to become more persistent and advocate in terms of like, no, something's wrong with my son because my daughter is able to do XYZ while my son is still doing XYZ. And, my mother had to become more advocate for me and persistence and really become more of that mama bear figure to say like, no, something's going on. I want you to start running tests. They started running tests. Long story short, fast forward the entire process, at 2.5 years old, that's when I was diagnosed with SMA type 2 through a muscle biopsy. And so, yeah, it's been quite the journey, quite the process. So now let's talk about types and severity. So types and severity. So type 0, which is rarely talked about, I noticed within the SMA community, and I actually discovered type 0 roughly around like several months back, and while I was working on another project. And type 0 results in, I don't know if we can actually say that word on YouTube, can result in fatality, can result in fatality at or shortly after birth. So type 0 is one of the worst and severest forms. So the lower the number, the more progressive, the more severe it is. And type 1 is Wernig-Hoffman disease. That's how you pronounce it. And it says onset in infancy with a rapid progression leading to severe weakness. Without support, many individuals do not survive past age 2. And keyword, many individuals, not everyone. This is just statistics they're going based off of. So I want to emphasize on that as well. So just if you have a child with type 1, I don't want you to focus on what is perceived as more common. And I want you to understand that there are actually individuals who have type 1 and they are exceeding the normal life expectancy that medical professionals seem to see and witness. I want to emphasize on that as well. Type 2, onset in late infancy with slower progression. Individuals can often sit but may be unable to walk independently and will require a wheelchair over time. So I personally have type 2. At the age of, to understand my progressiveness, is at type 2. At age of 5, I was in a manual wheelchair. I had the physical strength to push myself around. To at the age of 15, I no longer had the physical strength to do so, where I needed a powerized wheelchair. Now, let's fast forward 11 years because I'm currently 26 at the time of this recording, and I'm going on 27 in January. And fast forward to 11 years is, although yes, I am still in a powerized wheelchair, I am starting to struggle a little bit more in terms of physical mobility, strength, and especially neck support and chewing and swallowing. Those things are becoming much more difficult. So there will actually be several times where I will be recording content and you will slowly see my head doing this. And that is simply because my neck is getting tired and my neck support is becoming more fatigued. So I want you to understand like the progressiveness, how over time, life is slowly, is progressive. Let's leave it at that. Type 3, onset in childhood. Individuals can often walk but may have difficulty with stairs or standing up and will eventually need a wheelchair. And type 4, onset in adulthood. Symptoms are mild, and life expectancy is typically unaffected. Please pardon me with the last one. And ChatGPT, can you explain the different types of severity beginning from type 0 to type 1, 2, 3, and 4?
Absolutely. So the types of SMA are generally categorized by their severity and the age at which symptoms appear. Type 0 is the most severe form. It appears before birth or at birth and is often life-threatening very early on. Type 1 also known as Winnick-Hoffman disease, shows up in infancy and progresses very quickly without significant medical support. And many individuals may not live past age 2, though there are exceptions. Type 2 appears later in infancy and has a slower progression. Individuals can often sit but may not walk independently and might need a wheelchair as they get older. Type 3, which is also called Kugelberg-Wellander disease, shows up in childhood. People with type 3 can usually walk, have trouble with stairs or standing for long periods, and may need a wheelchair later on. Type 4 is the mildest form and appears in adulthood. The symptoms are usually very mild, and life expectancy isn't significantly affected. So the lower the type number, the more severe the condition, and the higher the type number, the milder the symptoms tend to be.
Yeah, definitely. And part of me, again, forgive me, is for type 0, the proper word I should have used is life-threatening. I should have used that word. So please pardon me with my choice of communication. I genuinely do apologize. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I was going over my analytics from my YouTube channel, and I was looking across what you guys are personally interested in, and I came across that people were actually looking up understanding SMA. Now, I do have, which is my very first episode, let me rephrase that, not episode, but my very first video on the history of this YouTube channel is beginning with what is SMA and how it affects quality of life, or how it impacts quality of life, somewhere around those lines. But it is generally talking about what is SMA. And so I have made a video talking about that like roughly 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, a little bit longer. And you guys were specifically looking up the keyword understanding spinal muscular atrophy, SMA. So I thought to make an updated video talking about it and making it into a podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Please, again, pardon me for my choice of vocabulary and communication style. I am too growing and learning. I am too growing and learning just as much as you are learning information in regards to SMA. I am doing my absolute best to spread SMA awareness across different forms of outlets. And this is one creative idea that I had to create the SMA Victor Podcast. And although my name is Victor, there is such more of a meaning behind SMA Victor. If you guys have not yet seen the SMA Victor Podcast introduction, I highly recommend that you guys go to the YouTube channel, scroll down to the SMA Victor and the SMA Victor Podcast introduction. I emphasize on the meaning behind SMA Victor. Again, it's much more than just a name. It's a brand. It's a representation of much more than just a name. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Excuse me. If you guys enjoyed, please like the video. If you enjoyed, comment down below what you enjoyed and newly discovered within today's episode. And comment down below any questions you would love to see within the next episode or future podcast episodes. And subscribe if you guys are new. We are so close to 100 subscribers at the time of this recording. We currently have 84 subscribers. So it would be really, really nice to reach that milestone because it's been quite the journey. But slowly but surely, we are growing. And together, we are stronger. The ultimate goal, is to spread SMA awareness in hopes to further more medical treatment breakthroughs within the SMA community. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, remember, grow through what you go through. Much love.